Dany Bahar is a fellow in the Global Economy and Development Program at Brookings Institution. He joins me now to chat more about this election. Welcome, Dany. Give us an overview of the race. We've got Benjamin Netanyahu, a longtime political survivor, really in the political fight for his life.
Yes, indeed. Some people claim that these elections, in part, he was trying to achieve a majority among his right-wing partners in order to, among many things, also legislate some immunity law that will keep him away from any judicial process given his open corruption cases.
And we're seeing live pictures now of Likud headquarters there in Tel Aviv. We're waiting for Netanyahu to speak. He should have started about 14 minutes ago. Unclear why he's running behind. We did hear from Benny Gantz, his main challenger, earlier. He urged his supporters, calling on them to be patient, but I understand he is embracing a call for a national unity government. Tell us a little bit about Gantz's platform, what he's offering, and how likely that might be.
Right, well, Gantz's speech was very conciliatory, and turns out also he has been making some phone calls to different people in different parties, even including the Arab parties that traditionally usually have been left out of the negotiations to form a government. So in that sense, it seems like he is going in that direction. And I think that he's going in that direction because there are not that many other directions right now. What we see of these results, even though it's maybe early to exactly understand them, they're very similar to the last results of the last election. And it seems like there is a big majority for these two big parties. And one of the ways out, one of what seems like a natural way out, is to have a coalition government, even though that seems unlikely because all of these candidates have said they're not going to sit with each other throughout the campaign.
In his years in office, Netanyahu has a very solid base. It still appears that he has lost some mandates in the next Knesset. Talk to me a little bit about voters' priorities and how did the economy feature in this election?
Well, it's interesting. Israel is a country that, even though it has gone through many ups and downs in terms of its economy historically, it is a strong economy today, but it has many challenges. But still, I would say that the main theme for these elections were either you are with Netanyahu or you're against him. You even see that some parties that decided to double down on economic issues were at the verge of collapsing or disappearing. For instance, the traditional Labor Party, that was basically the founding party of Israel, just barely made it, just by having 5 seats, just above the minimum threshold. So it seems like really the big topic here was either you want a Netanyahu government that has promised many laws that don't seem very democratic against Gantz, who has been promising a conciliatory tone and to bring back democracy and strengthen the institutions.
Netanyahu has often claimed that he's the only leader that can protect the country in terms of security, but also in terms of its economy. He has shifted the country politically to the right, but also economically so. So can you talk a little bit about Israel's economic hurdles, but also some of its bright spots?
Yeah, well, I mean, Netanyahu takes a lot of credit for the good situation of the Israeli economy, but it's not only a result of Netanyahu's policy, but it's really a process that started in the 80s. Even though one has to admit that Netanyahu talks less about things such as a high inequality. Israel is one of the most unequal countries in the OECD. Poverty rate is rising. Productivity is really, really low. Productivity is the main engine of economic growth. So there are going to be important challenges that have to do with education, infrastructure, even health, that need to be tackled, and they actually worsened, you could say, under Netanyahu's watch over the past 10 years.
Ayman Odeh, the head of the Joint Arab List, says that if Netanyahu falls, it will be the Arabs of Israel that toppled him. Is that true?
He said that, and I think he has a point. I mean, the Arab United List is, according to the polls, the exit polls, is the 3rd largest party. If there were to be a coalition government, national unity, this will make the Arab parties the main party in the opposition, which is something that has never happened before, having an Arab party in Israel, which represents the 20% minority, as the head of the opposition. So being the 3rd largest party means they have a lot of power, and yeah, indeed, they might have been the key to having this deadlock that we see right now.
Egypt prefers Netanyahu, obviously. Jordan seems to prefer Gantz. What does this do for the relations with Israel's Arab neighbors? Well, you know, at the end of the story, when you actually look very superficially at the positions of the Gantz party and Netanyahu party in terms of their
the conflict with the Palestinians and the Arab neighbors, they're not that different. So I don't have a lot of hopes that things are going to change on that front if Gantz were to be prime minister. I think that the main message of Gantz is bringing country back to a democratic trend and to strengthen the institutions rather than any other topics such as the one of the conflict.
And we'll be following these results closely through the night. Dany Bahar from Brookings Institution, thank you so much for joining us.